Hi guys, welcome back. So we are just about to step into another game, and it's very easy, and that's why it's called Easy ABC. This game was designed for three purposes. One, of course, it's very easy, and it was something that my daughter needed because we were teaching her ABCs, and it was getting difficult with the online application, and we wanted just her to listen and understand one letter and one, word associated with it. That was one. Two, we already did a game which was very easy and we did it full-fledged, which was the adding of numbers. So we could reuse some of the components and create something innovative out of it. And third, of course, it is because I want you to learn and do your homework. So this assignment was basically your homework. I don't know if you went through the last game's previous lecture or the last lecture for animations. I did explain about the game, but if not, here is a quick overview, and for people who have already gone through the overview and don't want it, that's fine, you can skip to this lecture. But for the rest of them who have not seen the lecture, here is the overview for you. So in this game, what we're going to do is we're going to have one section for letters, one for images, and one for spelling.
Apple.
And as you can see, the moment I do a next, there is a sound that comes up, and that's my recorded sound. I recorded that sound using my Apple device, Apple iPhone 6, using voice memos, and then moved the file into my laptop and then used another software called Audacity and then trimmed it into separate small files. And of course, this file is not hosted on my servers. This file is actually hosted on a third-party client. And if there are third parties who provide you with these services, why not use them? That's what I did. Similarly, the images that you see are images with a background of transparent, which means they do not have any background, so it's easy and it appears to be a part of the game. All these images are of course downloaded from the internet as well, and I uploaded all of them to Imgur. Imgur is a free site that lets you store all your images as a post, and of course I can use the URL to display it on my website. Now that being said, I merged all of that into a small JSON file. That's my data file that I created. Of course, I did share that JSON file in the last lecture of the previous assignment, as well as I will do it in this lecture so that people who are seeing this for the first time and are interested in doing the homework, they can get the JSON file as well as the CSS file. So let me quickly show you what the JSON file is. So you can see the JSON file has a letter A, it has an image, which is this image, it has word, which is of course Apple that gets appeared, it has a letter sound, which means A that I mentioned, A, B, C. Similarly, it has a word sound like apple, banana, cat, and so on. So that's all it consists of. This is your single alphabet object. Now, of course, we have 1 to 26, which means I have an array. So that was the alphabets JSON that was shared with you. The other thing is the app.css, so that you can use the CSS that was already used and created by me. Of course, if you had any question or something did not work, I'm sure you played around with it. So those are the two files that I have shared, and I will share again so that you can use those files to create your own easy ABC. And you do not have to recreate the content like Apple or the sound. And that's what I meant to do when I shared those files. Of course, now comes the point where we discuss the features of the game. Well, there are very small features and it's very easy. So anywhere you click, it will take you to a new letter like B. And of course, if you want to play the sound again, you can click the button
B.
Similarly, you want to do a next,
Banana.
the next image comes up. And if I want to play that again,
Banana.
okay. Now that was about what happens. Now I can also mute the sound. So I can turn the sound off, and if I need to play the sound,
Banana.
I can use the button. And if I do next, nothing happens. Now this was all A to Z, but what happens when I do a previous Z? So you need to make sure that once you go from A to Z, you also can make it a circular fashion so that it is a never-ending game. Now that is done, you can also randomize it. So once I do this, I do a next, zebra comes up, and then it goes to W. Now the randomize was because I wanted my kid to understand how things happen, not from A to Z, because always what used to happen is she always remembered A to H and the rest of it was just happening. So what we did was I added a random logic, and now my wife just shows her the letter, she guesses it, and then she says O for orange, and then we show it to her. But if she cannot guess what it is, she can play the sound.
Orange.
And of course, previous is disabled when you're doing random letters. So that's all the logic that you need to implement the game. So again, I will share the JSON file, the CSS file, and of course the URL so you can play along. And if you want to see how I coded, I will start that in the next lecture, where we will code everything from the scratch from our Create React app and deploy it to Heroku. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me, but I would really appreciate that you give it a shot and try to do it yourself. And if you have any questions, trust me, I will be there to help you. So mostly I respond very quickly. So try me, and of course write as many questions as you can, because I want you to implement the game yourself. Okay, and I'll see you in the next lecture, and let's code together. Hey guys, and so now we start coding our easy ABC game. It is very simple. I start with a complete blank slate, and of course I will use the 2 files that I provided to you as well. So let's just quickly go here. I'm in my folder where I need to create my React app. Once I do that, let's call it as easy ABC, because that's what we're going to be using. Let me create the app. It takes a while, so I'll let it do it, and I'll cut the video out here. Alright, so the installation is done, and I will just go into my directory, which is cd easy ABC, and then I'll do an npm start. Once I do that, my server should come up, and of course with a blank application. I'll let it load so that we see that this is ground zero. Now that we have it, let me quickly copy the 2 files that I gave it to you in the easy ABC source folder. So I will paste the alphabets.json as well as the app.css, and I'll say replace it, so that that's my file goes in. Now I have everything in here. I refresh it, nothing happens. So now let me go and open the app.js and quickly create a child component. So everything remains the same, and let me just keep everything as is, except for the content that gets displayed here. Let's update the welcome to React. Anyways, it doesn't show up. It's only the logo that is showing up. But I can just replace the logo with easy ABC. Let's save it. Let's refresh. Let's see what happens. And I can see easy ABC. Of course, we can change the styling later on. So easy ABC displays on the screen. Now let's quickly add a new component. Let's call it as import easy ABC from, of course it has to be the same file name. So let's say easy ABC colon, and let's call this component just below it. Now we haven't created the component, so it will start giving me an error. So let's just quickly go and create the new component that we need. Let's close this. Let's save this file as easyabc.js. Save the file. Let's do an import react, comma, component from, of course, we will do it from React. Now that's taken care of. Let's go and add the class easyabc extends component, and then let's do a render function. Now inside the render, we'll also do a return, and we can just do a small return saying h1 tag, close the h1 tag, and say this is where the game starts. Okay, and let's quickly export default the class. Now that's taken care of. Let's refresh the screen. Does not match abc.js, which means this /.abc, and it refreshed because I did not save the app.js. Okay, so now I can see the content coming in from the easyabc.js. So the next step is very simple. So if you recollect, we used options and fields. So this pretty much can be used again out here. So let's go back here. Let's go to easy ABC. Let's remove this game starts here. Let's create a div with the class name, of course, equals to game. And as you can see in the CSS file, that's where everything starts, and that's the styling that we will need. So let me just quickly open the app.css. Now I can go and say .game here. So you can see I'm using this CSS class. Now once I do that, I can start using the options div, which is div class name equals to option. I think it was option or options. Let me quickly check that. Dot option. Well, we don't need that class any longer, so we can still keep it option. Let's go and let's do div. Now let's add the fields. So div class name equals to fields. Let's close the div. Let's add another field, which is div class name equals to field block. If you recollect, these were the classes we used in the previous lecture. Let's close the div and let's say A. Let's see what happens on the screen. Fantastic. So our A block comes up. And again, I'm not done anything. I just wrote 4 div with different CSS classes that is already existing in my app.css. So you can see a game, fields and field block out here. Well, the fields is twice. I'm not sure why, which one works, but I'll let it be so far. So A is displayed. Now the next thing is to display the buttons. So of course the buttons have to come in after the field, which means it can come after fields, which is here. And let's say we create a div with the class name of buttons. Let's do that. Now inside the buttons I can have 4 separate anchor tags, and of course let's just do the href equals to hash, because that will not take us anywhere. And class name, of course we need to have a button class name, and then let's call it as previous. Close it. Let's see what's the class name for previous. So it was button, and then after the button dot previous class. So let's put that. Let's say button and previous. Let's copy this. I think the next was sound, and this was play sound again. And next. Let's save it. Screen refreshes. I can see 3 buttons. Of course, the underline is still there, which we will fix later on. Now that this is done, let's create the other section, which is the below section. The way we can do it is, rather than writing it, what we can do is we can just copy this, because it's as good as saying the fields. Let's say that and let's see what happens. A and A. Now we need to split it into 2. So if you see my app.js file, app.css file actually, you will see a left and a right slider. So left and left field and a right field. What it does is it splits the content into 2. So we can use that. So let's do that. So in the field block, we can have div class name equals to left field. Let's close the div. Let's say I write in letter A. And then in the next one, I say right field. I'm not sure what happens yet, but let's see what happens. Let's save it. Let's refresh it. And I can start seeing A displayed twice. Of course, this will become my image and this will become my spelling. So that was the HTML part of the game. Of course, we haven't yet implemented sound and random, which can be done later. So even till this point, this is pure HTML and CSS that was already there. All I had wrote was the HTML file and utilized the CSS. Now, even from this point onwards, you think that you can catch up on the game. You can feel free to pause the videos and you can go and try to code it yourself. But if not, you can continue watching the videos. So I'll see you in the next class and we will continue our game development.